This Monday, there was a lot of emails in my inbox from companies advertising their Memorial Day flash sale. And we don't do that. And there's a very important reason why. Listen in to learn more. And welcome back to the Murdy Creative Co podcast. I'm your host, Colin Murdy, and today's topic is why we don't do Memorial Day sales. But first, I want to say thank you to everyone who's supported the company so far. If you got a chance, go check us out on the web at murdycreative.co. That's M-U-R-D-Y creative.co. And a special thank you to all of those who have supported the company. It allows us to keep doing this. And check out our limited editions that go live on Thursdays. So I hope you all had a good weekend. I hope you all had a safe weekend. Memorial Day is a really important holiday. And for those international listeners who don't know much about American holidays, Memorial Day is the day that we celebrate those who have died in service to our nation in the wars that have been fought in the past. And it is a great holiday. I mean, it's an important holiday. And it is something that has been commercialized in a way that I feel is kind of gross. Now, I think it's important to mention this to start with. We don't really do sales pretty much ever anyway. The last sale we did, I think, was last August. We haven't done a sale since then, at least not a sale like, X percentage off. We don't really do those sales. Our BOGO this year was actually a gift card. If you bought a certain amount, you got a free gift card. That was our Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal. And it's important to me that we don't do sales, in part because I think it cheapens the brand and cheapens the product. I've mentioned this before. I think it's absolutely an important thing that we have lost sight of as a country in some regards, which is that we can't have the way business is done is that businesses price their products really high and then offer big discounts. It's disingenuous. It's a psychological manipulation. And it means that you get this world where there's these expensive things that are garbage, but you don't mind because you got it for a discount, even though it's still garbage. Right? So we don't do sales very often, ever, if ever. And I try to avoid them, and I'm trying to avoid them in the future. The last time we did it was a flash sale for back to school for 48 hours. And I think the one before that we did was another 8 months before that, maybe even longer. So that's an important point to start with, is that we don't have a culture of doing flash sales or sales in general. And that's been a very cultivated mindset. And we do miss out on a lot of revenue from that potential, right? I hate to say it, but flash sales work, unfortunately, in the business world. I mean, a lot of people hem and haw about buying something, and then the second they get a discount for it, they're all for it, right? And I actually think that it's a disservice to the customer as well, because I think that if you go to buy a $5,000 Rolex and you get it on discount for $3,000, you didn't buy a $5,000 Rolex, you bought a $3,000 Rolex. And I think that the mental state is actually important. But beside all of that, we have turned in this country specifically, every holiday into an opportunity for companies to say it's time for you to spend more money, which is the exact opposite, I think. I mean, some individuals out there would say, well, it's exactly what these men died for. Your right to spend more money on a fridge. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's true. And I don't think even those who say that are really genuine about that. And I think the commercialization of Memorial Day is gross. So I don't buy anything on Memorial Day sales, and I don't offer Memorial Day sales on our company products, right? Even if we did do sales, I wouldn't offer it on Memorial Day. And it costs me. It does. It means I pay more for the same product. And some people would say, well, that's just bad thinking. And the answer is, well, you have to understand the motivation, right? Intention matters. It does. It's obviously not everything. Intention is not everything. But the why you do something can matter a great deal. And if I think that commercializing Memorial Day via sales is gross behavior, why would I partake in that behavior? Philosophically, that doesn't align, right? I think we've, as a culture, missed out on a very important thing, which is that you should be sacrificing for the greater good personally. You should not be made to sacrifice. You should not be forced to sacrifice for the greater good. That's wrong. You should choose to do it. You should choose to give of yourself. You should choose to do the thing that is better for your community, right? And I'm not some communist, right? I'm clearly not. I have very strong Republican leanings. And I think part of the reason behind that is I think that we should choose to live in a community. We should choose to have that care for another, right? That's part of what I believe is my Christian duty, right? I think that in many ways, the proper order of things is not that something, should be taken from you and given to another. It should be freely given by you to another. And I think that same philosophy percolates into the decision to not partake in Memorial Day sales, both as a seller and as a buyer. And I can't force other people to do that, right? I wouldn't even necessarily encourage action to force others to do that. I'm saying people should choose to do that. They should choose to do the right thing. And I do feel that that is the right thing, to not, for your commercial gain, for your own personal commercial gain, be it as a seller or a buyer, use the excuse of a holiday when that very action is a disrespectful thing to the holiday, right? I mean, my great uncle was a tail gunner, and I've talked about him in a little bit in the past. And I actually really do want to do a whole little. He kept a journal. He kept a little pocket journal, and I want to do a whole thing about that and talk about the fact that we have his journal. We have the notes that he took while sitting in an airplane. And these people were real people. They lived real lives, and they died in many ways. And that's a sacrifice that should be noted for what it is and not just as an excuse to have another barbecue. And so that's why we don't do Memorial Day sales. Now, there's a lot of things I think that have gone wrong in the last 50, 60, 70 years. But one of them has been a failure to acknowledge and a failure to recognize our individual role in shaping the world we live in. We traded the artificial belief that we can change the world for genuine day-to-day personal responsibility. We let people believe that it was their job to change the world while simultaneously not asking of them to sacrifice their own personal comfort or feelings for their neighbor. And I think that is the worst and most irresponsible failure on our part. Because you're right in that you should be doing something. That feeling you have something should be done is a noble and good feeling. It is misdirected if you think it should be directed at the world. It is properly oriented if you think it should be towards your neighbors. When I moved into my current house, and I was moving from the eastern side of Wisconsin to more towards the central part, and I was moving in a very rural neighborhood. That first winter, we moved in November. That first winter, I didn't have a snowblower. I didn't have a way to get the snow off of our property. And it snows in Wisconsin, particularly where we live. It snows a lot. And without asking, without me asking, without him asking, my neighbor just came over. I didn't even really know him. I met him once, maybe when we were moving in, and I didn't know him at the time. And he came over, and he had his gator with the snowplow on the front, and he plowed our whole driveway. And he did it multiple times. And I've obviously been seeking ways to thank him for that and to repay that kindness over time. But he did more to help than so many other people who just talk about help, right? So if there's any message I think you should take away from this particular thing, it's that it all does start with you. And it shouldn't be done for some sort of global reason. It should be done for your inner nobility, your personal integrity. It should be done because it's the right thing to do. And you should be the kind of person who does the right thing. And sometimes it can be hard to know what the right thing is, right? Is it wrong for me to take advantage of a sale a company offers? That's one of those questions where it's difficult to answer in a vacuum. If you knew nothing, if that question was on a test with no other context, it would be hard to answer. But you don't live in a vacuum. You do know the context, and you do know the context of Memorial Day. And so the answer is it right for me to take advantage of a sale that a company offers when the guise of that sale is under a day of honor for those who are fallen heroes? That's a different philosophical question. And I don't say this to shame anyone, right? At some level, most people I don't think that deeply about these things. I don't think most people think to themselves, should I take advantage of this sale or not? Because of why it's happening. They just see the sale and they take advantage of it, right? And I don't fault people necessarily for that. We live very quick, busy lives where sometimes deeper philosophical thought about what we're doing is difficult, is complicated. The noise that we are surrounded by constantly prevents us from being able to go, wait a second, is this really the right thing to do? And I think that's actually by choice. I also think that that's by design. I think the devil is very successful at filling our lives with noise so that we can't think philosophically. I think that's a failure on our part to resist that. And I, chief of sinners I am, fall into that all the time. Right? I am constantly distracted by the noise, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't allow myself to be distracted by the noise and allow myself to live shallowly. That's not a good way to do it, right? So that's part of the reason why we don't offer sales on Memorial Day, right? Even if we did offer sales, we wouldn't on Memorial Day. And it comes at the cost of potentially thousands of dollars in my pocket. But it's the right thing to do. And we're not going to fix anything as a country, as a culture, as a group of people, unless we individually decide that we are going to start planting trees under whose shade we will never sit. Unless we start doing things that are personal sacrifices because they are the right thing to do for the improvement of our community. And hopefully, if enough people decide they're not going to shop on Memorial Day because it's not an appropriate thing to do, companies will stop doing Memorial Day sales because they don't work. And I hope that that happens. And I'm not saying that this needs to be some sort of dictate from on high. I'm saying that this should be a personal decision we each individually make. And you can make a different decision. And I don't fault business owners in some regards for offering a Memorial Day sale, especially small businesses. It's been a tough couple of years. It has been a tough couple of years for small businesses. We have constantly been getting kicked in the teeth over and over and over by everybody. And there's a lot of people that are making decisions about sales like that out of desperation, a desperate need for sales. And in some regards, if you are in that position where you are making desperation attempts to survive, as it were, there is a little bit of grace and a little bit of understanding on my part for being in that position. However, we cannot live in a state of desperation, because if we use a state of desperation as an excuse to do whatever needs to be done, you can justify a lot of bad, gross, and negligent behavior by doing that. And we should not allow that to be the case. So, to those who are struggling in some regards with how to deal in the world we live in with that desperation, I would say that whatever you can do to no longer live in desperation should be done. If that means that sometimes the decision has to be unfortunate or difficult, it's better to make the difficult decision than to make the bad decision. And I think that that's true. And I hope that I can continue to live this way. I hope that I can continue to hold on to these principles because I think that they're very important. So as for me and my company, we will make the best of the decisions that we can for the philosophical reasons that we make them, and understand that the sacrifices that come with those pale in comparison to the sacrifices that have been made by others in defense of this great nation. But I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe I'm crazy. In the comments below, I'd love to hear from you, whether you think that I'm nuts, whether you think that I'm right, whether you think that it's not wrong to take advantage of these sales. In fact, we should be taking advantage of them. I want to hear from you. I'm not right necessarily about everything, and certainly it's worth a discussion. So I encourage that. Also, be sure to like and subscribe and tune back in next week for the next topic. And don't forget to check that notification bell so that you get notified when we launch new episodes. Thank you guys for everyone who supported the company. If you have questions about the company, the product, what we sell, anything at all, please reach out to us on the main page of our website at murdycreative.co. That's MURDY creative.co. You can also reach us via email directly at sales@murdycreative.co, sales@murdycreative.co. You can also give us a phone call or text message at 414-434-9001. That's 414-434-9001. We're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. during our summer hours. So you can reach out to us during that time in Central Time. And if you don't get a hold of us, leave us a voicemail, leave us a text message. We will respond back as soon as we see them and get back into the office, and we appreciate your patience in that regard. They are all read by Anna. She's the one that reads the emails. So it's a real person who's really answering these things. And Anna needs to sleep and eat and, you know, all the other good things. So, you know, it's okay for her to take a break, and we appreciate your patience. If for whatever reason you want to leave us a good review, go to murdycreative.co/review to leave us a good review. Right now it redirects to the Google site where you can leave your review on Google. That does help us. If you want to read our reviews, you can go to murdycreative.co/reviews with an S, reviews. And that aggregates all of the reviews from all the different places, and you can read them there. If for whatever reason you'd leave us a bad review, please, 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 before you leave us a bad review, give us an opportunity to make things right. It is deeply important to me personally that everyone has a good experience with a company, with the product, with us personally, everything. It is important to me. If for whatever reason you are unhappy with your product, we want to help. We're happy to advise. We're happy to provide additional information. We're also happy to provide a free return label domestically to the US if you want to return your product to us and get a refund. I want you to be happy. I really do. So please, before you leave us a bad review, let me make it right. If you want to get something a little bit special for Dad, because Father's Day is coming up, or just for your team, or for those who you love, or frankly, even for yourself, you can get a customized option of our product using the blue Add Custom Logo Engraving button on most of the product pages. If you don't see that blue button, you can still get it customized. Just send us an email directly to sales@murdycreative.co, sales@murdycreative.co, with the image you want attached in the email and the product you're interested in getting. We can make a mock-up for you, as well as a custom, a link to purchase that specific product. So we are happy to help with that. Not everything is in the customizer yet. We're still working on that. However, if you do want to get something customized and the blue logo is there, you click on that blue logo, it will launch the customizer tool on our website. You can upload logos, you can add a bunch of different texts, you can resize, rotate, reposition, all that good stuff, and you click add to cart. There are no setup fees. It's just a simple flat fee, and you can get just one item. There's no minimum order quantities either. It's just one item, and it's normally $15 to $25, depending on how large of an engraving or how complicated the engraving is. If you want to get a whole bunch of them and you don't want to recreate them, add one to your cart, and then you can just change the number quantity in the cart itself. Bulk discounts start at a quantity of 5 and go up from there, and it's mix and match to your heart's desire, so you can get multiple items with that. If you're going to get custom engraved items, please, 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 they have to be copyright free. They have to be something where we can use them without having copyright issues. Anything made by Disney is a no-go. Anything made by any of the major companies, Nike, for example, any of that, no-go. Unless you have permission, unless you work for those companies, we can't do them. And we will reach out to you, because unfortunately, I'll tell you, if you put a copyright thing on a product, the order will go through because we have no system other than the human eyes looking at them to be able to verify that ahead of time. So the order will go through, and then we'll reach out to you and say, hey, we can't do this unless you have copyright permission. So just keep that in mind. They'll come after us. They won't come after you because you don't have any money. They're going to come after us. And they'll really win because they're really good at that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great day. And goodbye.